Hi everyone, this is Prashad Parthiban. Today I'm going to cover generative AI use cases in policy change endorsement. Most of you know the endorsement processing is going to be one of the critical process in terms of P&C insurance. Say if you issue a policy in personal auto where you added a car, after 3 months you purchased a second car, the only option you can add that second car is to perform an endorsement, where customer reaches out to the insurance company and someone from the insurance company creates a policy change work order to complete this endorsement. Now this is a very tedious process, right? Like you say, if you are a commercial lines customer, you need to interact with your broker have to send an email to the insurance company, somebody have to download that statement of values or whatever the document that has the additional coverage and enter it manually in the policy administration system and complete the policy change. With the advancement of generative AI and AI capabilities, it is very easy for us to streamline certain manual tasks. Now let's see some of the use cases where we can apply generative AI to improve this process. The first use case is automated endorsement, right, which is very common, right? Nowadays, say if you want to add a second car, there are chatbots which are human-like, where end customers can interact and say that this is a policy number, I want to add a second car. So chatbots can respond to them and automatically process this policy change work order, generate the document, right, and send the completed document if it's a simple policy change. So if this entire workflow, if you see, there is no manual intervention. If it's a complex change, yes, it makes sense, right? Like we can look at the policy data, and if it's complex endorsement, we can redirect that to the correct person within the insurance company. The second one is interactive policy change guides. Most of us know the main use case of generative AI is creating documents, creating new kind of documents, right? Now assume that a personal auto policy end user needs to do a change by themselves in the portal. Generative AI can generate documents or guides. Say if you want to add a car, follow this step 1, step 2, step 3. If you want to remove a driver, do this step 1, step 2, step 3, so that end users can do themselves without any help from the insurance companies. Proactive identification of coverage gaps, right? Now that artificial intelligence have a capability to read data, that is humongous amount of data, it can look at the policy and it can look at the customer's information like their location, their loss exposures, and then recommend like, hey, you know what, this coverage is missing from your policy. If there is a loss, like example flood, right? If you are in an area where there is a flood prone loss exposures, and if you don't have flood coverage, you are prone to risk. So generative AI can look at it and create a customized quote or something, or any kind of process that tells you these are the coverage gaps in your policy, please address this, and it's up to the customer to address it or not. Automated endorsement classification, right? Similar to claims processes where you get a claim, you kind of identify the severity of the claim and assign it to the correct adjusters. Even with the policy change, when you get a policy change request, you can kind of understand the severity of the change. When I say severity, if it's a bookkeeping, you want to do it automatically. If it's a complex policy change, you need to add multiple locations, multiple risk attributes, then you can route it to the underwriter who is having expertise on that area, right? One is kind of classifying the policy change and then assigning the change to the correct person. So all those things can be done automatically by generative AI capabilities without any manual intervention. Fraud detection, very, very important, right? Like assume that if I have a customer who is trying to add a risk exposure because they know that in next 2 weeks there is going to be loss due to the climatic conditions, you can detect that and immediately route that claim to the underwriter to review that claim. So because of the fact generative AI have capabilities to read the data, they can make sure that any change that comes to the insurance company is not fraudulent. Automated forms generation, most of you who are working in the forms know the complexities involved, where for every transaction we need to generate forms. Sometimes it is automatic, sometimes it's manual. With generative AI having a capability to generate forms by itself, you can generate the forms based on each and every customer attributes, personalized forms based on each and every customer attributes. Compliance check, like it's very important. P&C insurance being very in a compliance industry, every change has to be compliant with the Department of Insurance. It is very tedious for somebody to look at the change manually to make sure that this policy data is compliant with what the Department of Insurance needs. With generative AI capability, system can do that automatically so that we are compliant as an insurance company. Cross-selling, right? Like, if you assume that you have a customer who comes to you for certain coverages, right? Like, if they want to add a new kind of home or whatever it may be, with generative AI having capabilities to have huge number of data, it can recommend, hey, you know what, you're adding a homeowner's policy, what about cyber, right? Something like that, right? So it has cross-selling capabilities where it can recommend some new coverages. Let me to Amazon, right? You go and buy something, they recommend you, do you want to buy it as a combo product, something like that. Estimated processing timeline, very important, right? Like, nowadays most of the customers wants data or wants to process their transactions as quick as possible. Based on the customer data, generative AI can read all those data attributes and say, for this complexity, it is going to take 3 days to process this change. Please be patient, so that customers are informed upfront without they have to anticipate when this change is going to be completed. Again, as I told you, there are humongous amount of use cases, but I'm sharing my experience based on what I know. Once again, thank you so much for your continuous support. Have a great day. Bye-bye.